Good morning. Henry Thomas, Mr. Ruddy, Sam Ellis, Wade Ellis, Willie English, James Franklin. I speak the names of these 6 African-American men from the Sarasota and Bradenton communities who were victims of racial terror violence. I speak their names so that we will never forget the brutality that African Americans in our area, indeed across the state of Florida and these United States of America, experienced at the hands of lawless mobs who sought to take the law into their own hands, often with the backing of law enforcement. That's the definition of lynching. It is an unlawful murder by an angry mob used as a way to control African Americans. It is an act of terrorism. And it's not just a hanging, but killing by any means by mob violence. I speak their names because there may be other nameless victims that your elders whispered about, whose stories are not documented. I want to tell you a story. It's a story of a man who was lynched in Lake Park, Georgia in 1915. This man was accused of stealing meat from a smokehouse. He was jailed, but in the middle of the night, he was taken from that jail by a mob, led to a field by the railroad tracks, and shot in the back and left for dead. His body was discovered the next morning. That man was my grandfather, Caesar Sheffield. I am the granddaughter of a victim of racial terror violence, so I speak his name too. I speak their names and the names of my grandfather, Caesar Sheffield, so that you will understand the generational trauma that besets the families of these men. I say their names so that our ancestors are not forgotten. We're here on this day in Black History Month 2024 to dedicate a historical marker on these hallowed grounds of the Unitarian Universalist Church. And while this might be considered a solemn occasion, it is also a celebration of the lives of these 6 men and the countless others to whom this marker is dedicated. Given the climate of assault on the lives, culture, and history of African Americans in the state of Florida, this is a momentous occasion, a serious yet joyous and uplifting occasion, an opportunity for all of us to show that we care about the lives of African Americans. This is not a funeral. It is not a memorial service. It is a celebration of survival. Thank you for being here to show your support and to share in our rejoicing. Before Jay Wolin, minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church, comes up to bring greetings from the church, the Manasota Remembers Historical Marker Dedication Committee expresses our sincere gratitude to the leadership and congregation. Words cannot express our appreciation of the generosity of the Unitarian Universalist Church. Everyone here has been so wonderful to work with, so giving of time and resources, and so warm of spirit. There are a few people in particular that require special acknowledgement: Mrs. Dee Witter, Mr. Klaus Obermeit, Doug Caldwell, and Pam French. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your dedication and your assistance throughout this project. Following Reverend Wolin, we will rise for the singing of all 3 verses of the Negro National Anthem. The words are in your program. Lift every voice and sing, led by Dolores McKenzie of the West Coast Black Theater Troupe. Then the opening prayer from Kelvin Lumpkin, Senior Pastor of Light of the World International Church.
Thank you. And good morning, everyone. It's still the morning, I think, yeah. Somewhere in the world. I'm Reverend Jay Wolin. I'm the minister here at the Unitarian Universalists of Sarasota. I want to welcome everybody, both on campus and those who may be on live stream or in our annex rooms as well. You know, since we have a number of guests here today who might be wondering, what is Unitarian Universalism? Let me just share that Unitarian Universalism encourages an open-ended search for truth and meaning in our lives and a commitment to asking our values to shape our actions. And so we find wisdom from multiple sources, including our experiences in this world, in our quest for collective liberation. Now, I started here in August of 22, and I believe it was my first board meeting where they first made a presentation for the memorial remembrance plaque. And then it was in my second meeting in September of 22 where we had a presentation by my friend and colleague, the Reverend Brock Leach, Dale Anderson, someone who's active in our racial justice team, and our guest, the esteemed Vicki Oldham, the Venerable David Wilkins, and the Honorable Judge Charles Williams. I think all are here today. If you want to raise your hand, and let's give them some applause as well. Now, I admit that there were a few people who had expressed some concerns, and so I shared with them something that my ancestor, my grandfather, shared with me when I was a young boy, my grandfather, William Wolin, and he said, when you have a hard decision to make, Jay, always base your decision on your values, not your fears. And our values are very clear about this. Our values based on the principles of our religion, the value of interdependence, that we are all connected, the values of justice, equity, and compassion in human relations as we journey to build the beloved community, the value of spiritual wholeness as we journey to dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in society at large. May this action that we take today be just one more step on these journeys. Thank you for the honor that you bestow upon us in trusting us with this sacred remembrance marker. May it be so. And now I invite you to rise in body and or spirit for Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise praise. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with the steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, though who has brought us thus far on our way, yet I was by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our feet, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, true to forever stand. True to our God, true to our native land.
Good morning. Can we bow our heads and pray? God of our weary years and God of our silent tears, we're grateful that you've allowed us to be assembled here today for this solemn occasion. We thank you for the lives of the martyrs who we've come to celebrate today, whose lives we honor. Thank you for hearing the cries of their blood that was spilled on the grounds of this county. We thank you that their lives were not in vain, their sacrifice was not in vain, and that their blood actually watered the soil. Now, Lord, we ask that you would stir up in us a righteous anger, a righteous indignation to confront racism in every corner of our community. And finally, Lord, I pray that the unity that's in this house today will be transferred to every part of our community and everywhere we go. And Lord, we're thankful that you're going to do it. And we ask that you do it for your great name. Amen.
Manasota Remembers is a collaborative project with many partners. Leading the collaboration is the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. The Equal Justice Initiative is an amazing national resource devoted to social justice where visitors can experience American history at the Legacy Museum and the National Memorial for Peace and Justice. If you haven't already been, and I know some of you have, I encourage you to take a trip to Montgomery, Alabama, or at least visit their website at egi.org. Today, we are honored to have Ms. Sumita Rajpurohit, Project Manager at EJI.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us here today to support the important remembrance work that's being done here in Sarasota and Manatee counties. My name is Sumita Rajput, and I'm a project manager with the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. EJI was founded over 30 years ago in 1989 by our executive director, Mr. Brian Stevenson, in response to a crisis on Alabama's death row. At the time, 1/4 of all executions in the country were taking place in Alabama, but those condemned to die lacked even the most basic representation. In the decades since, EJI has continued its mission to represent people on death row, and we've been able to expand our work to provide assistance for children condemned to die in prison, people facing cruel and inhumane treatment in Alabama's prison system, and many, many others who've been unfairly convicted and sentenced. Yet, as we've continued our work challenging injustice inside the courtroom, we've also come to appreciate the need for change outside those walls as well. Change in our narratives around the history of racial violence and injustice in our country, and change in the very landscape that surrounds us. We have not yet adequately acknowledged the destruction done by the genocide of millions of indigenous people, by the enslavement of generations of kidnapped Africans and their descendants, by the culture that tolerated over a century of racial terror lynchings, and by the vehemence with which so many resisted the tide of justice and clung to segregation. For too long, we've been silent about our history of racial violence and terror. That silence has made generations culpable in failing to treat an open wound that still bleeds, still stings, and still causes suffering. When white mobs across Manatee and Sarasota counties killed Henry Thomas, Mr. Ruddy, brothers Sam and Wade Ellis, Willie English, and James Franklin, they not only lynched 6 Black citizens, but terrorized entire Black communities. These men were burdened by presumptions of guilt and dangerousness that still infect our society today. But today, with this marker, we can honor these men and take a step towards healing these wounds. Today, we say no more. When EJI began working with coalitions around the country to memorialize victims of racial terrorism, it was our hope to help bring about exactly what you see here today, to help begin the process of truth and reconciliation, of truth and repair. All of us at EJI are so proud of the extraordinary group of people here in Sarasota who've come together to do this meaningful work, and we are honored to be part of your efforts. Thank you.
Each one of the lynching stories will be abbreviated for the sake of time. However, for details of their lynchings, I direct you to 3 places: the program booklet, the Manasota Remembers website, and the Equal Justice Initiative website. Between each of the lynching stories will be proclamations from the City of Sarasota and the local branches of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. You will note that the Manatee County Board of Commissioners are on the program. We hoped to receive a proclamation from them, but they declined to submit one. Between 1903 and 1934, white mobs terrorized and lynched 6 Black people in Manatee and Sarasota counties that EJI has been able to document. Henry Thomas. Say his name. Henry Thomas. On March 6, 1903, a white girl in Parrish, Florida, claimed that a Black man attempted to embrace and kiss her while she was running an errand to a nearby farm. The girl's allegations quickly spread, leading to the formation of a white mob. This mob focused their suspicion on Henry Thomas. The mob roamed the Manatee County area for 2 days. On March 8th, they captured Henry Thomas near Hickman's sawmill. Despite his denial of rape and his insistence on his innocence, the mob intended to lynch him. After the mob coerced Mr. Thomas into admitting to hugging and kissing the girl, they took him back to the parish area where the assault occurred. There, they hung him from a tree, leaving his body overnight as a tactic to instill fear into the entire Black community and to maintain racial hierarchy. Unfortunately, there's no evidence that anyone involved in Mr. Thomas's lynching was ever held accountable.
Good morning. It's my honor to deliver a proclamation from the city of Sarasota. But before I go any further, I want to thank the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Sarasota for providing a home for this memorial marker, commemorating the 6 documented victims of racial violence in Sarasota and Manatee counties. I'm sure it was a very controversial decision because it represents a period in our history that many would rather not remember. Like me, quite a few audience members had parents or grandparents who heard firsthand accounts of slavery and lynching, perhaps relayed by their parents or grandparents. For many, those memories were so painful that they preferred not to speak of them, ever. But it's critically important that we do remember. Holocaust memorials throughout the United States have their mission preserving the memory of those who suffered and encouraging visitors to reflect upon the moral and spiritual questions raised by what happened and their own responsibilities as citizens of a democracy. I believe that we have the same hopes and expectations for the Manasota Memorial to the victims of lynching and other racial violence in our community. Andrew Young opened his 1996 memoir of the Civil Rights Movement, An Easy Burden, with a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. "I want young men and young women who are not alive today, but who will come into this world with new privileges and new opportunities. I want them to know and see that these new privileges and opportunities did not come without somebody suffering and sacrificing for them. May this memorial help them to know and to see." The proclamation from the city of Sarasota reads as follows. Whereas Black History Month serves as a reminder of the ongoing pursuit of justice, equality, and the importance of recognizing the continued challenges faced by the African American community, and whereas racial terror lynching was a horrific and brutal practice that targeted communities of color to terrorize them into continued submission to Jim Crow practices while reinforcing a culture of white supremacy among the white population and perpetuating a legacy of violence and fears. Whereas it is our collective responsibility to confront the historical injustices and work toward building a more just and equitable society. And whereas the Manasota Remembers historical marker serves as an educational resource, providing valuable insights into the history and heritage of the Sarasota Manatee area. Now, therefore, the City Commission of the City of Sarasota, Florida, and on behalf of the citizens of our community, takes great pride in recognizing February 24th, 2024 as Manasota Remembers Day, a day of special importance and worthy of the recognition of the residents of the City of Sarasota. And it was signed by the mayor and all of the city commissioners.
Mr. Ruddy, Sam Ellis, and Wade Ellis. Say their names. Mr. Ruddy, Sam Ellis, and Wade Ellis. In March 1910, in Manatee County, Florida, a dispute over wages between a black man, Mr. Ruddy, and his white employer escalated into a shootout, resulting in the employer's death. A deputy sheriff led a mob to find Mr. Ruddy, leading to a confrontation at the home of Sam and Wade Ellis. The deputy was killed in an exchange of gunfire, and the mob left to seek backup. A 24-hour manhunt ensued, during which a white man reportedly killed Mr. Ruddy, who had been hiding in a swamp. No one was held accountable for Mr. Ruddy's death. The following day, 2 deputies encountered Sam and Wade Ellis on a bridge. There was a confrontation. Sam Ellis was wounded and tied to a tree by a deputy, while Wade Ellis fled. A mob later arrived and killed Sam Ellis. Wade Ellis was found asleep in a swamp near the Manatee River and was also killed by the mob. Following these events, the black community of Manatee County fled in fear, with reports of ferry boats loaded to capacity with black people escaping the area. The lynchings of Mr. Ruddy, Sam Ellis, and Wade Ellis were never prosecuted, and the black community was reported to be badly frightened by the violence. Willie English, say his name, Willie English. On July 2nd, 1912, Willie English was abducted from the Manatee County Jail in Bradenton, Florida, by a white mob and lynched. Mr. Ellis had been arrested and held in jail after a white woman complained that he had spoken to her in a way that she found insulting. A mob of at least 40 white men attacked the county jail, seized Mr. English, and shot him to death, and hanged him from a tree near the Braden Castle. A coroner's jury ruled that Mr. English was killed by unknown men, and no arrests were made. The Tampa Tribune reported that the lynching served as a warning to others of his race who might forget the color line or the sanctity of womankind. In the end, no one was held accountable for Mr. English's lynching.
Excuse me, man. I don't need this thing to stand on, so I'm gonna move it out. I'm gonna move it out of the way. Good morning. The premises of the NAACP's 115-year history was, in fact, to combat and fight lynching and Jim Crow laws, which we still deal with today. So it is befitting that we submit this proclamation. Sarasota Manatee branches of the NAACP, proclamation honoring Manasota's victims of lynching. Whereas the painful history of lynching in our nation demands acknowledgement and remembrance, whereas the victims of lynching endured unspeakable atrocities and their lives were unjustly taken, leaving lasting scars on the fabric of our society. Whereas it is our duty to confront the darkness of our past, to build a more just and inclusive future. Now, therefore, we, the Sarasota and Manatee branches of the NAACP, do hereby proclaim: 1, the establishment of a lynching memorial dedicated to the honoring the memories of Henry Thomas, Sam Ellis, Wade Ellis, Mr. Rudy, William English, James Franklin, and those unknowns who suffered and perished due to racial violence. 2, a commitment to educating future generations about the historical significance of lynching, fostering empathy, understanding, and unity among our diverse community. 3, encouragement for open dialogue and reflection on the impact of systematic racism, promoting a collective effort towards eradicating discrimination from our society. Finally, in witnessing whereof, we, the Sarasota and Manatee branches of the NAACP, submit this proclamation to place on the record and in the archives of Manasota members on this 24th day of February 2024, submitted by Trevor D. Harvey, President, Sarasota County Branch, NAACP, Luther K. Wilkins, President, Manatee County Branch, NAACP.
Okay, I need this. James Franklin, say his name. James Franklin. On March 31, 1934, James Franklin, a yardman in Bradenton, Florida, was accused of assaulting a young white girl after he attempted to help her when she fell from a tree. He was arrested on April 3rd and maintained his innocence. The next day, while being escorted by police for a wellness exam, the girl's father approached him from behind and shot Mr. Franklin twice in the head. The officers arrested him, but left Mr. Franklin on the sidewalk. Mr. Franklin died an hour later at the hospital. The coroner's jury ruled the cause of death as justifiable homicide and called for the father's immediate release. No one was held accountable for the lynching of James Franklin, who was denied a fair trial or an opportunity to defend himself. Strange Fruit is a song written and composed by Abel Meeropol in 1937 and recorded by Billie Holiday in 1939. As Miss Sanaya Carroll told me, it is so powerful and searingly honest. Mr. Meeropol was a school teacher. The song was originally written as a poem. We are very excited to bring up to the stage our very own Sarasota jazz songstress, Miss Sanaya Carroll, who will sing Strange Fruit, accompanied by Tom Pissy.
Southern trees bear strange fruit, blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging from the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar tree. Pastoral scenes the twisted mouth, scent of magnolias, sweet and fresh, and the sudden stench of burning flesh. Here is a fruit for the crows to pluck, for the rain to wither, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, and the leaves to dry. Here is a strange and bitter cry, cry, cry.
Along with the Equal Justice Initiative, Manasota Remembers consists of 4 other partners: the Boxer Diversity Initiative, Newtown Alive, Sarasota African American Cultural Coalition, and the Manasota branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. There are 3 phases of Manasota Remembers, as outlined in your program booklet. Before Dan Boxer, co-president of the Boxer Diversity Initiative, comes forward, Manasota Remembers Historical Marker Dedication Committee must acknowledge the immense role that Boxer Diversity Initiative has played in the Manasota Remembers project. Quite frankly, if it wasn't for the Boxer Diversity Initiative, Manasota Remembers wouldn't even be happening. We wouldn't be having this powerful moment right now. Dan and his wife, Linton, are champions for diversity in our community. They've spearheaded Manasota Remembers project since its inception and led us to this point. We just wanted you to know that. Following Dan will be Vicki Oldham, founder of the Newtown Alive and president and CEO of Sarasota African American Cultural Coalition. And then, in place of Harold Young, will be David Wilkins, past president of the Manasota branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History.
Wow. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. and welcome again. You know, we finally made it. And you know what the reason is? You. All of you here are the reason, not what Dr. Sheffield said. It's you. You know, it's almost been 6 years since we started this journey. 6 years. When Lynn and I visited Montgomery to the EJI museums in May 2018, we were so saddened to see the memorial marker of 6 known lynching victims here in Sarasota and Manatee counties. When we returned, we were determined to do something. We knew about a community remembrance project where one worked with local communities, the EJI. So we contacted the EJI and we talked to Miss Duvernay. I'll never forget it because she's a famous filmmaker. Not her, her family. And she said we needed to make a proposal, which we did. We immediately approached Manasota Asala, Jim and David, Newtown Alive, Sarasota African American Cultural Coalition, of course, Vicki Oldham and Dr. Hill, and our own Judge Williams. And they immediately agreed to partner with us. And we are so grateful to this day for this partnership. But one of the main conditions, probably the most important condition to get our proposal to EJI accepted, was to show the support of this community for us to have a memorial. And that's where you came in, all of you, even if you weren't living there at the time. When we approached you, we received 400 written pledges of support from individuals and the family. And we also received the support of 70 organizations as well. So, thank you. Thank you to the Unitarian Church where this marker is located. And thank you, Dr. Sheffield, and the Dedication Committee for your outstanding work. And thank you, Jean and Linda Crump, for organizing the essay contest. And I'm going to again thank the UU Church again because, as many of you know, there were a lot of ups and downs in finding location for this marker. But when it came down to it, the UU Church came to the rescue. And finally, last but not least, I want to thank the Community Foundation of Sarasota for being with us at the beginning and providing the finance that helped us get to where we are today. And I have to give a thank you to the Drake family, who also have so helped us from the UU Church. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Sheffield, we also speak the names of our area's lynching victims on our trolley tours and in the Newtown Alive book and on history marker number 5 at Greater Hearst Chapel AME Church. And we're so pleased that lynching victims now have their own marker. It is as if we have all been running in a relay race, David. How did we get here? Historians love timelines, right? Here's a quick timeline. August 26th, 2016, Manasota Legal Aid celebrates its 25th year. Announcement: we're having a fundraising dinner. Keynote speaker Brian Stevenson is coming. October 2016, I was comped a ticket to attend this event because a guest canceled. Mr. Stevenson's speech was riveting. He talked about wrongfully convicted black men on death row. He outlined the history of criminal justice for blacks, and he also included lynching history, which got my attention because at the time my team was publishing a research report about Newtown history, and no lynching history was in it. We began a search. I knew who to contact. I'm looking at her right now. In November 2016, I contacted Hope Black. She is, yes, Hope Black. Stand up, Hope. Quite a researcher. So, Hope emailed her professor at USF and was very direct, as she always is. Do you have any information about a lynching in this area, 1920s? No success. I've had no success going through Florida newspapers, and some issues are lost. The next day, her professor, Dr. Julie Armstrong, responded. I directed an honors thesis about lynching in your area. It was entitled A Bare Bones History by one of my students, Haley Prott. It's in the Pointer Library, not in the mainstream. Hope found it, I read it, and I sobbed. Dr. Sheffield, boxers, you know that I wanted to honor lynching victims at the Leonard Reed House, but that was not meant to be. There were others of us who had to carry the torch and teach us some lessons about a community coming together. Jared Wilson was the chair of a committee who ran with the project as far as he could. Jared might be in the room, I'm not sure. Thank you, Jared, for running your part of the race. And then the Boxer Diversity Initiative took that baton and ran to the finish line with it. Yes, they jumped some hurdles. I was with them, jumping hurdles. They persisted. They gathered support. They found a location at this beautiful church. And the takeaways for me: we are all called to take a stand to tell Black history stories. And there are many ways to get to the finish line. Build a coalition of support is one way. And another thing I learned, when one door closes, try another one. There are still many stories to tell in many formats about Black history in our community. Like through that quilt, Peg Green, if you're in the room. She told the story of Newtown history. She's waving in the back. Through a quilt. through murals, Walter Gilbert, through the Cultural Center and Museum, Dr. Hill of SAC, through podcasts, through a thesis, Haley Pratt. I'm going to quote Dr. King too. He said, "Tell our stories," at the National Cathedral, March 31st, 1968. No lie can live forever. Truth crushed to the earth will rise again. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet the scaffold sways the future. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I have the privilege of representing our president, Harold Young, who is under the weather today. I'm David Wilkins. We study history in ASALH for many, many reasons, and I can't think of a more important reason than to honor not just our ancestors. In this instance, those ancestors who were terrorized, who lost their lives, whose spirits I feel and I hope you feel here today. If any of you have questions about why we study our history, I have some young people from our Freedom School here today who will share with you some of those answers. But let me first start by introducing and thanking our Freedom School staff, our senior lead teacher, Edna Sherrill, who's here. Mr. Irwin Alexis, who leads our middle and high schoolers, who's here. I have to also mention Ms. Gretchen Johnson, Jolady Rosario Hernandez, our newly appointed program director, and Jennifer Joseph, who aren't here because they're with our children in Freedom School. I also have to thank our many volunteers. I see some of you in the audience today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have to thank our parents who brought some of our children here today. They've been wonderful. And let me lastly thank and introduce Ms. Jasmine Prasad, also a teacher, who will introduce our students. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Join me in welcoming our Freedom School students as we are about to perform a section of the Mask from Dr. Maya Angelou. Dr. Sheffield did a wonderful job of telling us that we are here today to celebrate, to honor, to remember. And Dr. Maya Angelou does a wonderful job here in reminding us that laughter can too be a survival apparatus. And she ends, and you will hear them end on this note during this section. They say, "But sugar, it was our submission that made your world go round." Then you will hear a section of Lift Every Voice and Sing. We ask that you lift your bodies and your spirits as Ms. Hadara, a wonderful Freedom School participant and student, is going to present that for us. We will then go to I Too by Langston Hughes, because we too sing America, we too represent this country, and our blood has watered this soil and has watered the souls of our children who you're about to hear today. If you wonder why we celebrate, ask them. We will not run in fear. We will stand in the honor of our values. We will stand on those of our ancestors, and then we will lift every voice and sing yet again. And please do stand with Ms. Hadara. Please welcome our Freedom School students warmly.
"70 years in these folks' world, The child I works for calls me girl. I say, ha ha ha, yes ma'am, for working's sake. I'm too proud to bend and too poor to break.
So I laugh until my stomach ache. When I think about myself, my folks can make me split my side. I laugh so hard. Ha ha, I nearly died. The tales they tell sound just like lying. They grow the fruit, but eat the rind.
I laugh until I start to cry when I think about myself and my folks and the children.
My fathers sit on benches, their flesh count every plank. The slats leave dents of darkness deep in their withered flank, and they gnawed like broken candles, all waxed and burned profound. They say, but sugar, it was our submission that made your world go round.
Please stand.
Good job.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Please be seated.
I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Then, besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America.
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 Okay, I guess it's my turn now. As you can see from the program booklet, the Racial Justice Essay Contest is one of the 3 components of the Manasota Remembers Project, along with the historical marker and the soil collection. Linda Crump, a member of the Essay Contest Committee, is here to talk about the recently held essay contest. She will be followed by spoken word presentation by Melanie Lavender. Closing out the inside portion of the program is Macy Powell of the West Coast Black Theater Troupe singing, "I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free."
Good afternoon. Just to let you know, I was the first one who got to say that to you. I want to tell you the joy in the first part of this celebration because we're tapping into the future and asking young people not only to think about what this country has been like, what has happened for those who were here and not treated the way they should be treated, but you need to speak the truth before we can move forward. And truth speaking is at the heart of everything that EJI does. It's at the heart of why we're here today. The joy is that young people can see a future. They can bring to us the hope that we need to let us know that we understand and we think there is a better way and a way to really make this country better. We need to listen to them. We need to hear their voices. Those young people that were before us, thank you. Thank you so much for who you are and what you do, because I am American. We are all American. I have to spotlight one person in particular, even though there are so many people we could spotlight, and it's Edna Sherrill. My husband, Gene Crump, who's the co-chair of that committee in doing that, we moved here more recently. And because of being voluntold to come to a class with David Wilkins, we had the honor of meeting some young people in Edna Sherrill's class. We would go every week. We would talk about things that in the school system kids don't get to hear, because we had real life experiences we were bringing forward. And the kids loved it. And in fact, every once in a while when we couldn't be there, they would complain to Edna, "Why are you keeping our people away from us?" And it was a joy. Unfortunately, with COVID and going out and a change in the climate, things got testy. Even though we still have very dedicated people in the school system who want to do the right thing, they're working in a tough climate right now. And it's very difficult for them to be able to be the truth speakers they want to be and to make sure young people understand. The essay contest is only open to public school students, grades 9 through 12. And people, why only public school? Part of this struggle deals a lot with private school and having these alternatives that made sure others couldn't participate. But the public schools are there. They're there for a reason. We need to be supporting them. We need to stand up. We need to make sure that the coalition that's starting to take and make sure Black history is taught to kids. Kids want to know. Now, EJI protects them. I wish I could stand up here and read to you every one of their essays. I wish I could do a lot that they did. But they know, EJI, the world that many of these young people face. So they protect them, and they protect their essays, and they protect their words. We were blessed in this community to have so much talent emerge. Committee members, if you want to raise your hand and wave, you were all spectacular. We had a great time working together. Some of the administrators were on board right away, but were kind of told, sorry, you can't do that. I don't know if embracing our differences has anyone here, but through the coexistence clubs, and we were able to get the word to young people about this opportunity. So, as Vicki said, just because one door closes doesn't mean there isn't another one. Open it wide. Make sure you go through and do what needs to be done. This was such an exciting part of this process. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to be a part of it, and I want to thank everyone and thank all the young people who were part of it. If you have a chance, do it. Thank you.
As Melanie comes up, I just want to say that she's been a little under the weather lately, but she came here because she promised us that she would give spoken word. Melanie Lavender. Is there anything I can do to help you do this? Okay, do you want to step? Yeah. Okay. All right, I'm going to be right behind you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And whenever I go on air or go live, I always ask a question. It's a call and response. So when I say what's up, you all say what's up, what's up. Y'all want to try it? Okay. What's up, what's up? What's up, what's up? Oh, excellent. Y'all give yourselves a round of applause. I'm going to read to you today a piece I entitled Fire. Just another day that the Lord has kept me. Just another day that the Lord has kept me. He has kept me through all evil, and my mind stayed on Jesus. Just another day that the Lord has kept me. They say when fleeing an attacker to yell fire. But during the turn of the 20th century, if you wanted a man's land, all a white woman had to do was shed tears and whisper rape. Protecting the white woman from the sexual mandingos who hung like a horse, who only wanted to rape white women. That's why he is not allowed to bump into them on crammed sidewalks. Whistling at her would get you drugged out of your house and set on fire. Just another day that the Lord has kept me. Along the Manatee, Henry Thomas and others hung on parish trees. Picnics were family gatherings to watch a monkey swing on a branch. Towns that smelled like roses still carries the stench of death that 100 years couldn't take away. The earth tells no lies when it comes to homicides. Countless others who remain nameless. He has kept me from all evil, and my mind stayed on Jesus. During the Jim Crow South, black men could be caught in the morning, have his trial in the afternoon, and execution carried out before dinner was served. That's why Sunday services were so important, giving refuge to weary souls having hope for the afterlife with no white-only signs. Making it through the week was a time to celebrate with songs of gladness and remembering those who went on to the upper room, leaving lessons, testimonies to the next generation to run and hide when a white woman whispers rape and no one else yells fire. I'm so glad that the Lord has kept me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Macy Powell. I'm here from the West Coast Black Theater Troupe. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Sheffield. Manasota remembers all the partners for creating this wonderful, inspiring program. I'm so happy to be here today, and I hope all of you get inspired from this wonderful song that you may know. I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. I wish all the chains holding me. I wish I could say all the things that I can say. Say them loud, say them clear for the whole world. I wish I could share all the love that's in my heart. Remove all bars that keep us apart. I wish you could know what it means to be me. And agree that every man should be free. I wish I could give like I'm longing to give, and I wish I could live like I'm longing to live. I wish that I could do all the things that I can do, though I'm way overdue. I'd be starting anew. I wish I could be like a bird up in the sky. How sweet it would be if I found out I could fly, and I'd soar up to the sun and look down at the sea. And you know I'd sing, 'cause I know I would sing, because I know, oh, I would sing, 'cause I know, hey, I'd sing, 'cause I know how it feels to be free. Thank you.
Amen. Well, it's that time of the program where we will go outside to the grounds for the unveiling of the historical marker. And before I call for the Kuumba drummers to call us to gather, there are some acknowledgments that need to be made. First, I'd like all the members of the Historical Marker Dedication Committee to please stand and stay standing. Stay standing. All of the members. They are from the Boxer Diversity Initiative, Dan and Linton Boxer, co-presidents, and we've already spoken about Dan's leadership, but Linton was right there by his side, making sure he took care of the details. Josephine Eisenberg. Josephine juggled all the balls, kept them up in the air, never dropped a single one. She kept them in order. She chilled me out when I was getting too stressed. Thank you, Josephine, for your expert management. Francis Fernandez. Now, Francis isn't here, but he's out there watching. Shout out to Francis. Francis was the baby on the committee. I call him the baby because he could probably be most of our grandsons. But this baby taught us old heads a thing or two about social media and marketing, dragging us, sometimes kicking and screaming, into the 21st century. Thank you, Francis. Dale Anderson from the UU Church. I refer to Dale as our local arrangements captain. But he was so much more than that. He made sure the church and the committee were always on the same page, and he handled much of the heavy lifting, like land surveyors and the installation of the marker. Thank you, Dale. You know how there's always someone on a committee who asks the difficult questions, but then works equally hard to answer them? That's our Sherry Suggs. She's been involved in almost every aspect of the dedication, from taking care of the refreshments to making the cover scarf for the marker. Sherry will be emceeing the unveiling portion of the marker outside. In these last few weeks, if you've gotten tired of seeing my face on TV or radio or hearing my voice on radio, we're going to blame Rosa Grillo. Rosa was our expert PR guru, arranging press releases, TV interviews, and radio broadcasts. Thank you, Rosa. Now, when you're outside at the marker, you will see the beautiful seating area that is our Manasota Racial Healing Memorial. This memorial was made possible by a gift from Suzanne Drake and her children in loving memory of her husband and their father, Dr. Christopher Drake. Would the Drake family please stand to be acknowledged? Mrs. Drake, do you want to say?
My husband was Dr. Christopher Drake, and he practiced many years in Chicago as a surgeon and here for 12 years as a surgeon until he retired. He wasn't really active in the community. He was very active in the hospital, doing everything. From operating to running tumor conferences and things like that. But he had very strong opinions about how to treat people. And that is why we feel he would be very happy to be remembered today. He was totally committed to having equal justice throughout anything that he was involved in. He was what we hoped all people would do right now. Thank you.
The Manasota Racial Healing Memorial is a place for contemplation, grieving, and reconciliation. You will notice West African symbols that are stepping stones to a new groundwork of acknowledgement and racial peace. Thank you, Drake family. Many thanks to Amy Martin. Amy, are you here? Is in the room? Wave. Yes, there you are. Thank you. She's a master landscaper who designed the Racial Healing Memorial Marker. And to my friend David Glosser, David, are you back there? Who I called 2 days ago for advice about how to pretty up the marker. He came over and just worked his magic on it. So you will see his work around the historical marker. Thank you, David. I must again acknowledge our presenting sponsor, the Community Foundation of Sarasota, for their generous contribution. Roxy, do you want to stand and wave so everybody will see you? There are additional acknowledgments in the program booklet. While time will not permit me to acknowledge everyone's contribution, please know that your efforts are sincerely appreciated. Finally, many of you expressed interest. Here comes the commercial, right? Many of you have expressed interest in providing financial support to Manasota Remembers. There will be envelopes placed at the registration table to accommodate those who would like to have the opportunity to donate. Now, let me tell you what's going to be happening moving forward. First, we'll take about a 15-minute intermission so that our METV partners will prepare their equipment to be able to broadcast live from outside. When the drummers begin the call to gather, we will move out to the grounds. We will be standing for the unveiling ceremony, which should take about 15 to 30 minutes. But you are welcome to stay seated here in the sanctuary or in the Reeb room or in the Lexo room for the 30 minutes that the unveiling will take place. The dedication will be live streamed to these rooms. Following the unveiling, please join us for a reception with food in the courtyard. Okay, so just stay where you are for about 15 minutes. When the drummers start drumming, we'll be ready to go. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As you already know, I'm Sherry Suggs, a member of the Historical Marker Dedication Committee. I am so happy that you are still with us because now we have arrived at the moment that we've been anxiously waiting for, the unveiling of the historical marker. The text on the marker was written by the Equal Justice Initiative, a national nonprofit organization founded in 1989 by Brian Stevenson and located in Montgomery, Alabama. EJI works to transform the justice system by promoting responses to violence that break cycles of trauma. The front side of the marker summarizes the documented racial terror incidents that took place in Sarasota and Manatee counties. The back side places the racial terror violence in context with lynchings in Florida and across the United States. After I read the text on the marker, Dr. James Stewart, retired professor at Pennsylvania State University, and former president of the National and Manasota branch of ASALA, will perform a libation ritual, calling on the ancestors to visit us on this day. We do this ritual in the spirit of remembrance, to honor the past so that we may learn from it. And we do it to show our reverence for the original source of our lives, as we honor the victims of racial terror violence. The front side of the marker reads, and I quote, "Between 1903 and 1934, white mobs terrorized and lynched at least 6 Black people in Manatee and Sarasota counties. On March 8, 1903, a white mob hanged Henry Thomas near Parrish, leaving his body suspended overnight to instill fear in the entire Black community. White residents took the mere allegation of an assault as permission to kill Mr. Thomas. On March 6, 1910, a Black man referred to as Ruddy was lynched following a dispute with his white employer over wages. In this era, Black workers who sought fair treatment and the enforcement of contractual obligations of their white employers regularly faced the threat of retaliation. The next morning, on March 7, a white mob lynched two brothers, Sam and Wade Ellis, after accusing them of interfering with Mr. Ruddy's lynching. On July 2nd, 1912, a white mob abducted Willie English from the Manatee County Jail and lynched him. Mr. English had been arrested solely because a white woman alleged he had spoken to her in a way she found insulting. On April 4th, 1934, a white man shot and killed James Franklin, reportedly with the assistance of two law enforcement officers who were supposed to be escorting Mr. Franklin to a physician for a physical, mental, and wellness exam. Despite many eyewitnesses and even photographic evidence, no members of any of these mobs were held accountable for lynching these black men. I just want to say here, this is not in my script, but after the service inside, my pastor, who gave us the opening prayer, informed me that he had an uncle that was lynched in Polk County. Racial terror lynchings between 1865 and 1950 claimed the lives of at least 6,500 black people and terrorized millions more. Racial hierarchy persisted after the Civil War and emancipation, resulting in disenfranchisement, economic exploitation, and racial discrimination. Lynching emerged as the most public and notorious form of racial terrorism in this era and was intended to reinforce racial hierarchy and segregation. Black people accused of violating social customs, seeking economic autonomy, or committing alleged crimes were often victims of racial terror lynchings. Even minor accusations against a black person or a perceived violation of social customs could end in lynching, as was the case with Mr. English. Though terror lynching generally took place in communities with functioning criminal justice systems, lynching victims were denied due process. Millions of black people fled the South to escape the climate of terror and trauma created by these acts of violence, which deepened the anguish and the pain of lynching. After the lynching of Mr. Ruddy and the Ellis brothers, many ferry boats were loaded to capacity with black people who sought to escape the neighborhood where those killings occurred. Oral histories document additional lynchings in Manatee and Sarasota counties, and although many victims remain unknown, there were at least 345 racial terror lynchings identified in the state of Florida. Excuse me. Now we will have Dr. Stewart, who will perform the libation ritual.
Good afternoon, everyone. Libations are a means to pay homage to the ancestors who paved the paths that we now trod and to request their spirit's presence at special occasions like today's. Libations involve pouring a liquid into the ground to summon the spirits of our ancestors and to seek their approval of the actions that we take on a particular day. By honoring our ancestors, we also honor the best in ourselves and demonstrate our appreciation for their hopes, their dreams, and their sacrifices that enable us to enjoy the quality of our lives today. Libations, like most African ceremonies, do not accommodate passive spectators. Consequently, you will have an active role in this portion of the marker dedication. I request that you repeat the word Ashe each time that I invoke it. Ashe is a Yoruba word that connotes peace, blessings, and power, and in some respects, it functions in a similar manner to the word amen in Western religious traditions. Today, we pour libations specifically to honor those individuals in Sarasota and Manatee counties whose lives were ended tragically and unjustly by unpunished perpetrators of racialized violence. First, I pour libation for Mr. Ruddy, who was lynched on March 6, 1910. Ashe. Next, I pour libation for Henry Thomas, who was lynched on March 8, 1903. Ashe. Next, I pour libation for Sam Ellis, who was lynched on March 7, 1910. Ashe. Next, I pour libation for Wade Ellis, who was lynched on March 7, 1910. Ashe. Next, I pour libation for Willie English, who was lynched on July 2, 1912. Ashe. Next, I pour libation for James Franklin, who was lynched on April 4, 1934. Ashe. Next, I pour libation for Caesar Sheffield, grandfather of Committee Chair Carol Sheffield, who was lynched on April 15, 1915 in Lake Park, Georgia. Ashe. Next, I pour libation for all lynching victims in Sarasota and Manatee County, whose names we do not yet know. Ashe. Finally, I pour libation for all of the victims' unknown descendants who have subsequently joined their progenitors in the hereafter. Ashe. Now, I ask you to call out the names of your own ancestors who would be pleased by our actions today, those who have suffered discrimination, and those who would support calls for equality and respect for all persons. Ashe. Reuben Stewart. Ashe. Call your ancestors, please. Ashe. Ashe. In conclusion, we hereby declare that the sacrifices of those commemorated today will never be forgotten. Ashe. And we, assembled here, pledge to do everything in our power to create a world devoid of racialized violence and, in addition, to confront racial hatred and bigotry in all its distasteful forms. Ashe. 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 Thank you.
And now, the Manasota Remembrance Historical Marker Dedication Committee will unveil the marker. We will close this ceremony with a benediction from Rabbi Jennifer Singer, who is the interim rabbi, Jewish Congregation of Venice. And after Rabbi Singer, following the benediction, please join us for a reception in the courtyard. Once again, we thank all of our sponsors, our donors, and our guests for your contribution to this very important event. Thank you.
This morning, we shared in an unprecedented gathering. We remembered Mr. Henry Thomas, the Honorable Mr. Ruddy, Mr. Sam Ellis, Wade Ellis, Mr. Willie English, Mr. James Franklin, And we know that those are just a few of the names of those who were harmed in this terrible way, whose lives were ended by racism and hatred and misunderstanding of the human form. Our eyes now look to the future, to a time when people of all colors, religions, and backgrounds continue to gather to remember the past and envision a better future for all. This unprecedented gathering needs to be a precedent for the future, where we continue to gather, we continue to remember. We are one human family, each created in God's image. When we look into each other's eyes, we see both their humanity and God's light shining out. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Eternal bless you and protect you. May the Eternal's face turn towards you and show you favor. May the Eternal's face turn ever towards us and bestow upon us peace. Amen.
This concludes our program. After you take all the pictures you want of the marker and the beautiful memorial garden over here, please head to the courtyard for much needed refreshment. Thank you.